Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Joining you every morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you so much for joining me as always. It is very much appreciated. I hope you've had a good week. I hope that you've managed to reach the weekend in a positive light, and I'm hoping that you are and yours as well are indeed good, well, safe, all of those things. Yeah, I'm hoping that we can get through this weekend with a modicum of success. It'll be good. There's something weird about the fact that you're playing against teams now in Burnley, in Brentford, in Wolves, in Luton, the next four league games before we have a few tougher fixtures against the likes of Villa and Liverpool and Brighton, for instance. There's something about them that comes like a level of expectation, doesn't there? Like, we talk about it as a favourable run of games, but there's something that also goes alongside that, which is anything other than a defeat and the Wolves are out. So, which could be very well the case if in a few games' time, of course, because that is exactly who we're playing. But match day today, very excited. Looking forward to getting to the Emirates and watching the lads play at a 3 p.m. kickoff. I know that it's not the most enjoyable kickoff time for those in the UK. I, for one, I'm very privileged to be able to go to the games at the moment and, see these 3 p.m. kickoffs. So it makes it far easier. Let's hope that it goes well. Good morning, those joining us in the chat box, though. Thank you so much for doing so. Blackshine, Damien, Sweaty Merlot, Ray, Peter, Stevie, Peter, Jimbo, Mr. Ree, NSW, Red Star, Amira, Sabre, Olawale, Rancid, Paul, Maximir, Stephen. Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for all joining in, and everybody else, and those joining on catch up as well. It really does mean a lot. Just trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. Jorgen says, feel like we fans, when we lose, we're in a great crisis, but when we win, everything is great. And that's football. That is football, Jorgen. Sabra says, how are you doing today? Better than yesterday. I'm surviving, mate. I'm alive, and that's what matters. Just keep pushing forwards, keep going forwards. That's the most important thing. Keep moving, and that's what we're going to do. So let's move into the first section of today's show, shall we? With Arsenal facing off against Burnley. We did our preview show. You can join myself, Marcus, Alex, and old Dave in yesterday's preview. Old Dave was a fantastic debutant that we had on, and I'm hoping that we can go through more of these shows and get them back to a greater regularity in the coming weeks and months as well. So yeah, that certainly is a positive. But Arsenal's game against Burnley, we discussed kind of the team news aspects. We discussed our lineups, injuries, and talked a little bit about transfers even as well. We did a preview show. So if you've not yet watched it, please do go give that a rewind and a watch. It's the last upload on the channel before this one. Now, our big news from the training pictures is that both of Takahiro Tomiyasu and Eddie Nketiah were spotted in the pictures, which is obviously really positive because there was worries that both of them might not be fit. Now, just because they're training doesn't mean that necessarily they'll definitely be involved. We will have to wait and see whether or not that will be the case. But both of them being there is obviously really good. So it's a really positive sign. Whether or not they'll start or be involved in the starting lineup or in the squad whatsoever, we'll have to wait and see until that lineup comes out at 2 o'clock today. But that's obviously really, really positive. The bigger news, though, was that we've seen the news and being shared all around social media yesterday that Bukayo Saka was indeed spotted with the team ahead of the game. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that he's going to be involved in the group, because as we've all come to learn, that just being with that group doesn't necessarily guarantee you or mean that there is any guarantee that Saka will indeed be in the squad, because we saw that against Man City, that he was at the hotel, he was with the players and having their pre-match walk, etc., etc. But when it came to game day, he wasn't there. So yeah, there's no necessarily a guarantee. It's not necessarily a guarantee that Saka will indeed be with the group, but that is obviously still a really, really positive sign that he was there. Now, Mikel Arteta undertook his press conference yesterday, in which he was asked obviously about the squad, and yeah, I think yesterday was a really revealing press conference in regards to kind of what we've come to expect from the manager. He says, on the latest team news, you mentioned we have a few are still in contention, and we need to give them 24 hours to give them a chance to be involved in the game. But we won't know anything until tomorrow. Timber is for sure out. Thomas Partey is for sure out, and probably Emil is out. But there might be a few more. So those might be's are, of course, Saka and Nketiah, Tomiyasu, for instance, that we're not 100% sure whether or not they're going to be ready. Hopefully they will be. Interesting that he didn't mention Jesus in that group. He was called up, of course, for the Brazilian national side. Whether or not he's going to be involved in this game, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But considering he was called up for Brazil, there might be some semblance of hope, but I'm not particularly I'm not particularly hopeful because I don't think he was spotted with the team yesterday, although I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't. Talking about being kind of called up for the England squad and if he'll be brought back like last time, he says, hopefully not. We want our players to play for their club and play for their national teams, and B had to leave the pitch because he was quite a lot of pain and he didn't train yesterday, and let's see if he can make it today. So he was with the squad, so we don't know if he's actually trained, but he was with the squad, which is obviously a positive thing. He was asked about Thomas Partey's procedure and how long that might keep him out. And he says, no, hopefully not. He's progressing really well, but it was a significant injury. Hopefully it's going to be weeks and not months, and he's working towards that. He needs support, and hopefully the injury will heal him the right way and we'll have him back because he's a big player for us. And, that constant concern, that constant worry about Thomas Partey's injuries does persist. But, very, very frustrating. He was asked about if Aaron Ramsdale, if he'll be selected for the Euros. And he says, I haven't spoken to him about that topic. No. Very short, very succinct answer. No elaboration on that. Very intriguing. I'll be interested to see what happens in the next few days and weeks, because obviously we're playing Brentford soon. So we'll play in that game. We expect him to get some minutes there, but it's not looking great for Aaron Ramsdale's England future right now. Whether or not that will change about what he's going to do, whether he might leave, I guess we'll have to wait and see. He was asked about Burnley and about Vincent Kompany. He says, I'm not surprised at all about how he's doing. I think he was already a coach when he played. He was a leader, someone very intelligent that could navigate very different scenarios really well. In the dressing room and above, he understood the game really well. He spoke several languages, and you could tell straight away that he was going to be a top coach. Obviously, he's had a very strong career already, and what they did last year was incredible, especially the way they did it. In this Premier League, we all have difficulties. We all have moments, and I'm really happy to see him doing what he's doing. And I think that kind of Burnley have changed, obviously, under Vincent Kompany. That was one of the big reasons they were able to kind of blitz the Championship and played so well. But when you come to the Premier League, if you don't evolve, if you don't tweak things, if you don't become a bit more rigid and defensively secure, there is always the chance that you could be found out. And I think that maybe Burnley and Vincent Kompany have kind of seen that. And Arteta says, looking back on the games they've played and the results they've got, in some of them, they merited much more than what they got. I don't think it reflects actually what they deserved in games, but that is the difficulty of this league. Sometimes when you deserve more, you don't get it because the quality of the opposition is so high. But the way that they have transformed their way of playing, the club, and how they continue to play with the belief that they do, for me, it is remarkable. So that's really good. I do want to discuss the point he said about Kai Havertz. He was asked about if there's unwarranted pressure on the player, and he says, I don't know. I can tell you that I'm really pleased with the way he's performing. Obviously, looking at the numbers, just specifically the numbers on what he's producing in front of goal, those have to be improved, and we have to improve them. But in many other areas of the pitch, what he gives to the team at the moment is really important. And he's right. It is really important. But I just don't see how there can't be more concerns about him. I wrote a piece yesterday that was kind of discussing the idea of maybe one of the reasons why James Maddison was not considered in the end and why Arsenal went down a different pathway. Because obviously we're seeing that James Maddison is potentially out until the new year now with an injury that is worse than what they first feared at Spurs. And obviously Maddison has suffered with a number of injuries during his time at Leicester. That kept him out for extended periods. He missed something upwards of 40 games for Leicester during those kind of 5 seasons that he was there. And on the side of Havertz, obviously he was at Chelsea for 3 years. He was by Leverkusen in the senior side for another 3 years, and he only missed something like just way less than half of that. So it is maybe one of the indications that they looked at Maddison and thought those injury records that he had just was not a reason as to why they went for him, and maybe that kind of put them off the idea of Maddison. But they still got a lot more goals and assists than Havertz has got so far, and Havertz has got to do a lot to try and catch up those numbers, and he's got the availability to be able to try and catch up those numbers. So, yeah, I guess we're going to have to wait and find out. But I hope that we can see, Havertz deliver today, because that would be great. I love this comment in the chat box from Henko. It says, I loved Arteta's answer where he used the analogy of being bald. And I'll tell you what the full answer was. He was asked on reports that it will take 10 years to iron out the VAR imperfection. He says, I don't know. I will probably be bald in 10 years. Life will be very different, and maybe we'll have other rules in football. So I don't know. Let's try to do everything we can individually and collectively to improve the game in every aspect. And that's it. So, yeah, very, very interesting indeed. Now, our headline story of the day is that there are reports emerging that Arsenal will have to pay around £60 million if they want to get their hands on Douglas Luiz in January, which, of course, creates quite the difficult scenario for Arsenal this winter. We know that financial fair play has been a big factor in Arsenal's restricted spending and limited activeness in the market and things like that towards the end of the window. And with that, what have disappeared, Arsenal will still have a relative amount of restriction in January, and they'll need to sell in order to buy, or at least loan some players out in order to make space for those players to come in. 60 million is a lot of money. Is that what he's worth? I mean, in regards to this market where we're at now, I mean, Arsenal paid £65 million for Kai Havertz, and Douglas Luiz, you'd argue, has had a much more successful season and last couple of seasons than Kai Havertz, and is a very similar age at 25. So, basing on that, you'd say yes, but I do try and avoid the idea of comparing price tags of players because contexts are always so different. There's so many factors that go into the price of what a player costs, whether it's age or length of contract or form or, the club that they play for, their nationality, things like that always go into it. So it's difficult. I'm not sure that I would pay £60 million for Douglas Luiz. I think you could probably get a better player or two good players that could add depth in two positions. I think you could go to Fluminense and get Andre, who's a really exciting young defensive midfielder who'd probably cost half that amount, and then spend another 30 million or maybe another exciting young winger that can give us depth in the forward line, rather than spending £60 million on a player that wouldn't necessarily be guaranteed to start, especially when everybody is fit. So difficult one. But let us know your comments down below and in the comment section after the rewatch as well. How much you think Douglas Luiz is worth? What a realistic figure is, because I don't think it's unrealistic that Villa should put this price tag on him. If I was Aston Villa, I would be asking for £60 million for Douglas Luiz. I don't think you can have any qualms at Villa for putting that price tag. He's just signed a brand new deal. He's in great form. They don't need to sell. They don't want to sell. So I've got no issue with Villa saying that they want £60 million for him, because I think that's probably, if I was Villa, what I'd also be asking for. So, yeah, but let us know what you would end up maximum paying for him and what you'd use £60 million on instead. Right, let's go to part 2 and your questions right after this. So this is part 2 of our 8 a.m. show, which of course means that we're going to tackle as many of your questions as we can in the chat box. You can ask us a wide variety and range of topics that you'd like, typically revolving around Arsenal, but we're not always so restricted here. We haven't got any financial fair play going on to restrict what questions you're asking. So feel free to go hell for leather and chuck your questions into the chat, and we'll try and tackle as many as we can. Jay says, Sorloth, Sesko or Sikan? Which one? I don't think I know who Sikan is. So I not him. Of the three, I think I'd go for Sesko. I think Alexander Sorloth is kind of, reached a point of not necessarily being in the age bracket, I think. I mean, I might be wrong. I just feel like Sorloth has been around for a really, really long time. Let me have a check. He is 27. Yeah, again, he's not really in the age bracket that I think Arsenal would be going for in terms of a striker. Danilo Sikan, Ukrainian centre-forward for Shakhtar Donetsk, 22 years of age. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists in 11 Ukrainian league games, 3 goals in 4 in the Champions League, which I think is probably what's gaining him a little bit more notoriety. Oh, he scored that goal against Barcelona. Was that him, the header, after a fantastic move from Shakhtar? Maybe it's him, but I can't say I know anything really about him, so I could be wrong of me to judge. So there you go. Ken says, who are we moving on or not registering to make space in our squad for any incomings in January? And this is the question. It's like, how do you move players on? I think Cedric is the obvious choice, but beyond that, who do you move on? Like, I know people would say, well, I'd move Havertz or Vieira or Smith Rowe or Nketiah. It's really easy to say that, but realistically, are those players going to move on? I'm not sure. Especially not Havertz, and especially not. I'd be very surprised to see Nketiah or Nelson move on in January, to be honest. Smith Rowe, maybe a loan. Maybe you can see Smith Rowe moving on loan to get some more regular game time ahead of the summer. Maybe Ramsdale could leave on loan. Who knows? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about what we might see regarding potential outgoings in January. I mean, Partey was being linked, but with his injuries, it's difficult to know if that's going to happen. Blackshine says, Saka was fit. Would you still rest him today? No, I wouldn't rest him. I'd play him. I'd play Saka from the start. And, we've got an international break coming up. So I would play Saka personally in this fixture. Tammy says, Nuno Tavares, discuss. Yeah, it's difficult to see where the future is going to lie for Nuno Tavares. I think Arsenal, I don't know if Forest are going to activate that that clause, but they're going to need him to perform a lot better. Omar's in the chat. Omar, it's been an incredibly long time. Good to see you back, my friend. Omar was one of our and has been one of our longest term listeners in the chat. He's been away for a little while. I hope things are all good with you, my friend. And welcome back. It's always good. I always tell people, if you need to take a break, if you need to take your mind away from things, if you need to jump out the show's chat, the community, or whatever, for whatever reason, I know, Penny Ween's not been with us for a little bit in the chat box, because it's important that people take breaks. It's important that people take their mind off things and focus on the things that truly do matter. I should only be like 37% of your daily focus. Yeah, I do think that Omar is like others, absolutely right to take breaks and things, and it's nice to see people when they come back as well. Johan says, if we're going to pay 60 million for him, I think that we can get better elsewhere for the same money. That's obviously Douglas Luiz. And Caho says, is Tottenham's title charge over with Mickey van der Ven and Maddison out until January? It's going to be a big challenge for them now. They play Wolves. If they can overcome that with a huge amount of players out. No Adoji suspended, no Romero who's suspended. And now, of course, Maddison and van der Ven out as well. Going to be very interesting to see how they cope with the significant number of changes to their starting lineup for this game. Hopefully Arsenal can take advantage of that. I suppose we should probably have a look at what Premier League fixtures that we've got coming up this weekend, so you're very well aware. Of course, the early kickoff today is that Tottenham game. So Wolves Spurs, 12:30. It'd be interesting to see how indeed that one plays out. Arsenal play Burnley, Crystal Palace play Everton, Man United play Luton. Those are the 3 p.m. kickoffs this afternoon. Bournemouth then play Newcastle. Very interesting game, of course, again, seeing how Newcastle have built upon that victory over us and the injuries and suspensions that they've also got to deal with, because no Bruno Guimaraes in that game. And then on Sunday, we've got Aston Villa against Fulham, Brighton against Sheffield United, and Liverpool against Brentford. That's all because of those European games. So no televised game of those 3, despite Liverpool and Villa and Brighton all being in action. It's kind of crazy, isn't it, that those games are moved to a Sunday and then they're not going to be on TV. And then West Ham United are playing Forest at 2 o'clock at the same time. So 4 2 p.m. games tomorrow on a Sunday. Very interesting indeed. It's going to be people's fantasy notifications popping off at 2 o'clock tomorrow. And then the big game in the afternoon, of course, is Chelsea against Manchester City. Very interesting indeed to see how that one goes down. Now, if Arsenal want to go top of the table today, they're going to need to win by 6 goals if they want to go top. So if Arsenal can manage to beat Burnley 6-0, which was my prediction yesterday, I was kind of coerced into that one, then Arsenal would be top come the end of today. But it's quite the ask to put 6 past Burnley. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see if that is indeed feasible. You'd hope so. You'd hope that it's possible, but there's no guarantees. Byron says, morning, Tom. Question. Since I haven't been on the live for a while, I have to ask, will we see a Havertz, Benny Blanco and Tommy triple screamer today? Have a good day, mate. Cheers. Thanks, Byron. Very, very kind of you indeed. That'd be great. Screamers from all 3 of them. All of our special TGTs, screamers from Tomiyasu, Benny and Havertz would be quite the turn up for the books, wouldn't it? I'd love to know the odds on 3 goals being scored from outside of the box from those players. So there you go. Let's go to George says, is Arteta in danger of getting 5 yellows? Yes, I think he's on 3, is he not? So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Jürgen says, spoiler. What have I spoiled? What did I do? What did I spoil? Tell me. I don't know what I've spoiled for you. Damon says, are you going to go on a rant about the manager of the month? Someone's in my article. Yeah, that article got quite a lot of attention yesterday. Let me have a look at what it's doing. My Twitter has basically not stopped. I literally close my phone for 5 minutes and then I open it back up and there's like where it comes out with a little 20 plus, like when you've got more notifications than Twitter can actually tell you that you've got. I put 2 tweets up. One of the first ones was quoting the fact that Ange Postecoglou had got manager of the month. I said, we beat City unbeaten. It's hilarious, really, because, of course, Tottenham's manager, Ange, picking up for wins over Fulham, Palace and Luton Town, in which they had 10 men in that game, obviously. Arsenal's month of October was a win over the treble winners, Manchester City. We had that comeback against Chelsea to draw 2-2, and we beat Sheffield United 5-0. And then I did an article on it because I was just kind of in the mood to kind of get some feelings off my chest. That's one of the benefits of being able to write about those things, is that you can, get those thoughts and feelings. I did a tweet for the article, which was Mikel Arteta robbed of October Manager of the Month award despite beating treble winners Man City and going unbeaten, scoring 8 goals in 3 games. Ange picks up the award after wins over Luton, Palace and Fulham. That tweet has got 618,000 engagements. So yeah, as you can see, my phone has been kind of going mad since yesterday, and I can tell you that most of them are Tottenham fans. Most of them are Tottenham fans saying, why are we living rent-free in your minds? It's a story. I wanted to do a piece on it, and so I have, but it was quite funny seeing my phone absolutely just go mental after I wrote and tweeted that article out yesterday. Sending his greetings from Thailand. No Nketiah tonight, please. Harsh indeed. The last promoted side that we played, Eddie Nketiah, scored 3 goals against. So harsh. I did my prediction, my preview show yesterday. Obviously, the guys and my team does include Nketiah. It still does include Trossard. It also includes Saka, Martinelli, and Havertz. So if you want to see how that all fits together, go and have a watch of our preview show. Ewegbu says, what we need is just a striker and a CDM like Fofana. With that, we can play Jesus behind the main striker and then partner Rice and Fofana to act as the base and a shield to defence and that attack as well. I think if we added a forward and a DM, I think we'd be in a great place if they were of starting quality. So adds plenty of depth to the squad. That's for sure. Byron says the football world has gone mad for Ange and Spurs. I think that maybe Arteta's comments has probably played a part in him not getting that award. You've beaten the treble winners, and you've obviously got a great result in the end at Chelsea, despite it looking very much like the opposite. And then you've absolutely battered aside with some fantastic goals and some great football against Sheffield United. So to not win the award when the opponent that you're winning against has won against Fulham, Palace and Luton Town, it's kind of mad, isn't it? It is a kind of crazy. But yeah, there you go. So I suppose I shouldn't get too worked up over it, and I'm not. It's just I just find it mad. I just find it really crazy. It's just so obvious. Dario says, where's Ødegaard in that attack? Not in the team, mate. So he's not going to be there. Maximir says, hey, Tom, I'm not keen on Luiz at 60 million. To use your own argument, he doesn't improve the team better than Partey. He has done well decently, but he is still a player that I'd keep in the squad, and he's not a first teamer. And I don't think that's unreasonable at all. I think if you're going to try and sign somebody, you've got to try and get them in to push the needle. What I would say is the difference between a player and the pushing the needle argument regarding the midfield is that Partey's lack of availability does change things. And also Partey's ability is obviously of such a high standard when he's playing consistently and is fully fit that it's difficult to be able to find a player that can be as good as him. You might find a younger player that's got the potential to be as good as him, and that might be the way forwards. But his availability is so poor that does change the context of the argument and that point specifically somewhat. Ryan says, hey, Tom, since Partey is injured, is recalling Charlie Patino a January option in midfield? Well, usually Arsenal do insert recall clauses into their contracts. For instance, Charlie Patino, I believe, did have a recall clause in his deal last season. Sorry, not Charlie Patino. Miguel Aziz, we sent to Portsmouth. He had a recall clause in his loan deal the season before last, and obviously he went off to Ibiza and then was recalled and went back to Wigan. Arsenal do tend to put those recall clauses into those loans, so I'd be surprised if there wasn't one in the one between us, Swansea and Patino. So I don't know if that's the right option, but if Arsenal aren't able to spend, maybe it is. Maybe it's not a bad idea, Ryan. So I wouldn't dismiss that out of hand at all. So yeah, there you go. Let's scroll up in the chat box a little bit more. I feel like I wanted to see if Omar had explained where he's been because I was curious. And he says, he just wrote all good. So that's fine. But I hope you're doing well, my friend. 37%. Oh, you guys are laughing at that. Yeah. No, that was one of my better ones. Peter says, Tom, thoughts on the 3 out of 5 Cats IFP saying that Bruno Guimaraes. I think I touched upon this a bit yesterday. The Bruno Guimaraes thing. 3 out of 5 panelists saying that Bruno Guimaraes wasn't a red card. I think it's predictable. It's very, very predictable, Peter, to be fair. So, yeah, Sorry, but it's just a blatant red. I did enjoy Martin Keown's rant on TalkSport yesterday, talking about the penalty and the Newcastle goal, and like how it's kind of mad that players and people didn't think. I also enjoyed Graham Souness even backing up Arteta. It's a really backwards world at the moment. You know, we're seeing Graham Souness, Richard Keys all coming to the defence of Arteta. It is a little bit strange. It is a little bit odd. I'm here for it. But it is, it's a bit odd, isn't it? It's a bit strange. And, I hope that Arteta continues to get the support because he deserves it after that kind of ridiculous incident. Guns and Yellow Ribbons, good to see you in the chat box, guys. Missing my first game in years as I'm not well. But can everyone go into the game, sing loudly and get behind the team? Not Tottenham songs, though. Of course. I think... I don't want to go into that topic because it's obviously it's a serious one in some ways, in many ways, in obvious ways. But Guns and Yellow Ribbons, I hope you're feeling well, my friends, and I hope you can recover very soon and get back to the Emirates ASAP. Omar says, things have been a bit busy with college and uni, so I've had not the easiest of times, mate. I've been there. My third year at university was really tough, and I struggled a lot mentally with that year. So I completely empathise with what you're going through. And just make sure you talk to people. Surround yourself with people that you can talk to, or reach out to family and friends from home. It's always important to keep people around you that can give you that support. Because trust me, and I'm not talking about just back then. Things going on as I've been kind of hinting to, now, and people around you are really important and really key to talk to speak to you, to bring you that support. So reach out. Don't suffer in silence. Philip says, on Zinni playing in CM, I would like it, but with Timber out and Zinni and Tommy being high-risk injury players, I understand why Mikel wouldn't want to risk both players on the pitch at the same time. And I think that's a completely fair point. I think that Zinchenko and Tommy in the field at the same time is a bit risky because you could lose both of them. And then you're in real trouble, especially got Kivior. Kivior could play left back, so that is an option. If you want to play Zinni in midfield, you could play Kivior at left back. So that is something you could try, I guess, if you were desperate to play Zinchenko in the middle. Dal is asking, Dave, what is the NFL equivalent to Arsenal? Again, my NFL knowledge is crazy bad, so I'm very, very, very intrigued what the answer to that question might be. Trader IQ Mike says, Mike in the chat says, loan watch session coming, Tom. We might have a loan roundup in January, at the end of the January window, because obviously we'll know then who's stayed and who's going to be at their clubs for the rest of the season. It's just a lot of resources to go into making those shows, and they're not necessarily always the most popular. So I haven't done them this season, because it's kind of a niche topic that only like a certain small sector of people are interested in. And you have to sometimes time management is important. But maybe we'll do like a halfway stage roundup, if you like. A lot of suggestions. Old Dave says Philly Eagles, or Grantley Pooh says the Patriots could potentially be the Arsenal equivalent. Who's isn't there a coach that, is it the Rams that have the coach that Arteta is kind of like, I know that because obviously they're owned by the same people. So I can't, you guys will know better than me, but I'm just kind of spitballing off what's just popped into my head. But isn't there a coach that Arteta's kind of spoken to, and they have kind of a good relationship, and they've discussed like tactics and how the sports cross over and things like that? Maybe you guys will be able to tell me in the chat. I'm sure that's not just me creating a crazy hypothesis. I'm sure that is certainly true. Jay says, looking for a centre mid or a DM. I mean, centre mids and DMs, Yusuf Fofana has always been my choice. So I absolutely go for him. I think he's the right player to go for. Let's go to Ryan says, Tom, what do you think about PGMO advertising for VR officials? Did you see the criteria? No, I've not. Was that serious? I'd be very interested to know what the criteria is, Ryan. Maybe you can chuck it in, but I don't know if this is a joke or not. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe it's something that we've all been duped online with people making up these adverts. It's like, did you see the spoof VAR discussion of the Arsenal Newcastle game? Like, someone put up like a video of like what they would, their interpretation of what the VAR audio would have been like, and so many people believed it. Like, so many people thought it was real, and they had to do like a community notes post underneath it. Like, it shows you like how believable people can be with things. I thought it was relatively clear that it was a joke, mainly because the people talking are very young, and none of the VAR officials are of that age. And whilst I thought it was an excellent parody of the entire thing, I was shocked to see how convinced it was of people. So there you go. That's going to bug me now. LA Rams coach. Who is it? Because that's really going to bug me if I don't find out who it is. Sean McVay. That's who it is. Yeah. So Arteta and Sean McVay, they have conversations. I'm sure they're on really good terms, and they've kind of discussed. Arteta's talked about how he's discussed tactics with Sean McVay before. So yeah, that was who I was thinking of. Let's go to Talib says, hello, I'm from France. I'm here in London. Can I still buy tickets for today's match? You're going to struggle, Talib. And I would always, recommend serious caution about buying tickets on match day, because usually the ones that are available, you run a high risk of being scammed. So just be really careful. Go through the official routes if you can. Just keep checking the ticket exchange. Maybe some tickets will go up on there. It's the Arsenal ticket exchange. It's part of the official website. Yeah, very, very hard. It's very difficult to buy on game day. It's not like other sports or other clubs, even in this sport, where you can do that. So just be really careful to leave when it comes to trying to get tickets on game day, because you can get duped very, very easily. Dickens says, morning, Tom. Have you seen an Arsenal improvement from Kai in recent games? I feel like he's been trying, and hopefully it's a matter of time until he's fully integrated. Yes, I have absolutely seen an upturn in form from Kai. He is a player that has got potential. He's got quality. We've seen it. We know it's there. It's just about unlocking it, and that is going to be the biggest challenge for Arsenal. So hopefully we can get there. Anyway, we're going to end the show there. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. It's very much appreciated. I hope you have a fantastic day. Let's hope that Arsenal bring home the points and improve all of our moods. That'd be great. It's always a fantastic end to your day. But elsewhere and otherwise, if they don't, just always try and have extra things going on in your world. Arsenal is not the be-all and end-all of everything, and there is certainly more to life than that. So stay safe, stay well, stay happy. And if you're struggling for whatever reason, my DMs are always open. So you can always get in contact at the Gooner Talk TV or at Tom Canton Media on social media, or at the Gooner Talk on Instagram. So thank you so much, guys, for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. And I will see you all very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.